First things first, men lie. They lie. Men make up stuff all the time. Men fake their lifestyles all the time. Men pretend they got money when they don't. Now don't get me wrong. He was extreme with it. And the levels he was going to keep his lie going was absolutely insane. Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Erica, and this is the Love Project, where we discuss all things love: the love of God, the love of family, the love in relationship, the love in marriages, and all things in between. If you are new here, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Go ahead and ring that bell and join the Love Squad. And if you are already part of the Love Squad, thank you for coming back and seeing about us. So today, oh Lord, I know y'all probably have heard a lot about this 52 part Who Did I Marry series. Baby, when I tell you, it's a lot. But I would like to talk about it because we talk about relationships here, and I would like to just walk through some of the things I realize, and of course, share a perspective about the different scenarios and situations that happen. If you are not caught up, I can't say I suggest you go and watch it, but you can probably go on TikTok and at least catch some highlights. Maybe watch a couple of them, and I think you'll get the gist of it. But anywho, let's go ahead and jump right in. So, just to give you an overview of what it is exactly that I'm talking about. So, it's a series on TikTok of this lady pretty much telling her story about this guy that she married and all the crazy things that came with it. It is 52 parts. I'm not sure if her real name is Risa Tisa, but that's her TikTok name. And she met this man online that she nicknamed a coin name Legion, right? If you guys aren't aware, Legions is a pile or a crew of demons. So that lets you know her thoughts about him. So on the way to the first date, I believe she called a flat, and she called him to let him know that she called a flat, and he decided to come and check on her and end up taking her to putting a donut on her car, and then they went to go get a new tire. He bought her a new tire, and then they end up going on a date to the Cheesecake Factory, ironically. If you guys know about the conversation with the whole Cheesecake Factory date, first date at that. And then about 2 weeks later, the pandemic hit. They decided to move in together because the pandemic, and they wanted to quarantine together. They moved into her house, and things kick off from there. So pretty much, like I just mentioned, there was a couple things from the get-go that I found to be red flags. The first thing was being impressed, I would say, by that first date action, like him, coming and getting her tire fixed or fixing her tire. Now, was that a nice gesture? Very much so. Was that a manly gesture? Very much so. I don't think she should have been impressed by that because, again, that's what men do. That's what men should do. So I think she should have acknowledged it and gave him brownie points, something, for it. But I don't think she should have been like super impressed by it. And then for the whole pandemic to happen a couple weeks later, and they're already discussing moving in together, that was a huge red flag for me. First of all, we don't know each other. Second of all, I would have thought that that would have been a better opportunity for them to get to know one another, because you have to quarantine and kind of, talk on the phone and have some actual time together to get to know one another, even if it's from a distance. I believe they said they lived about 30 to 45 minutes apart. Hey, not a big deal, at least not to me. It ain't that big of a deal to move with each other, but to each his own. So, but the fact that both of them was willing to move in together after 3 weeks, very much a red flag for me. There was like some talk later about him supposedly supposed to buy her a car, and we talking top notch cars. We talking Audis. We talking BMWs. We're talking all luxury cars. She originally wanted like a Ford type car. She originally drove, I believe, a Kia. Um, I may be wrong, but she drove a regular car. And he was upgrading her supposedly, but he drove a Ford Taurus. Now, I thought it was a red flag that he drove a Ford Taurus, but he was going to buy her a Audi or a BMW or a Mercedes, and you know, red flag. Um, Another red flag was that he lived in a studio, so a studio apartment. So that was the reason why her home was the home to choose to move into after 3 weeks. Um, Red flag, because again, you're talking about buying me a car that's easily 60, 70, 80 grand, maybe more. And you living in a studio apartment and you drive a Ford Taurus. It don't seem realistic to me. So red flag, major red flag. There was some talk about buying a home, right? Because supposedly that was the reason he was living in a studio apartment, because he was looking to buy a home. He was pre-approved for 700,000 $1,000 loan to buy a home. So they had started looking for a house. Now, again, I found this to be a red flag, because the it's not quite matching. Now, he supposedly was the regional manager for a big company, and then at some point became a VP of like operations for this said company. So title and loan amount, that kind of match up, but the lifestyle didn't encompass the type of finances that you would say you have, and the taste you have, right? So if you have taste for a $700,000 or more home, and you have taste for these luxury cars, I couldn't see you driving the car you driving, living the way you living, because your, even if it's levels, right? Your tastes don't change. Your levels change, right? You go from $50,000 to $100,000 to $300,000, so on and so forth. So your taste doesn't change, but your income change, your tax bracket change, things like that change. But you can see what type of taste a person have at whatever level that they at, that they at. So it just, again, to me, was red flags. Some of the key takeaways that I had in this situation, honestly, is more so what I want to talk about, because this story is real life. Like, it happens more than we acknowledge. First things first, men lie. They lie. Like, as she was telling the story, I'm kind of like, men lie all the time. Men make up stuff all the time. Men fake their lifestyles all the time. Men pretend they got money when they don't. Now don't get me wrong. He was extreme with it. And the levels he was going to keep his lie going was absolutely insane. However, as a woman, you should be able to read through some of this stuff. But anyway, some of the key takeaways was one, we gotta, as women, just being on the dating scene, men or women, be real with yourself. Be real with yourself, because one of the main things why this carried over so long is because she was lying to herself. She was lying to herself, so therefore he was easily able to lie to her. One, she wasn't acknowledging like that she was in it for the wrong reasons, because she wanted to believe that she deserved, that it was time for her to have this extravagant lifestyle, that she was believing his lies, that she was believing that a man will come in 3 weeks of knowing her and give her the world. Like, the chances of that is like, it don't happen often. I'm not saying it can't happen, but it don't happen often. And if he was that type of man, he most likely would have been with somebody already. Like, he could have had the pick of the litter if that lifestyle was real. If he was able to provide that lifestyle to any woman in Atlanta, he wouldn't be single. He wouldn't be on no website. So it's just, we got to be real with ourselves. I'm going to just leave it at that. Don't operate in delusion. A lot of what she experienced was due to her own delusion. Did he lie? Yes. Was he a pathological liar? Yes. Was he missing a couple flights on the elevator? Yes, indeed. But was she delusional? Very much so. And so her delusion caused her to believe his lies and to not adhere to the many, many red flags that came up, right? Another thing is we have to check our own intentions. A lot of times what other people do to us is valid. That man taking advantage of her, lying to her, reeling her in, taking her to test drive cars that he knew he couldn't buy and had no intentions on buying, taking her to see many and many houses that he knew he couldn't afford, putting in actual offers, wasting relatives' time, and going through, just taking her through the ringer. All of that is real, but she never said, why I'm really in this relationship? Why did I let this man move in 3 weeks? Why am I believing him? Why do I think what he's saying is true? There was no checking the intentions of her heart. A couple episodes back, we talked about desire versus desperation. If you haven't saw that episode, go ahead and check that out, because that's a key reason of why we need to check our heart and why we have to check our own intentions, because some of the things could have, a majority of her time with him could have been prevented. The marriage for sure could have been prevented, because it was clear that she shouldn't have married him. However, she did. And of course the shenanigans continued, and in some cases he even upped the ante. But we have to check our intentions. One of the things she mentioned is he paid the bills. He paid the house bills, right? So all she had to pay was her car insurance, her phone bill, her minor bills that she had for herself, but he paid all the house bills. And she said it felt good to not have to pay bills. To kind of, lay back and relax after being independent and taking care of herself for so long, right? So there was an exchange, because she never said he, you know, was taking her money. He never abused her physically, anyway. She never said that he did anything to her besides mentally beat her to death. Just lie, 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 lie. I mean, he definitely drug her through the ringer in her mind. He had her like she didn't know which way was up. So he did do that, but he didn't do her anything physically. He didn't, I guess mental damage obviously caused emotional damage and so on and so forth. But again, those things could have been prevented if she was just check her own intention, to kind of be like, okay, yeah, I probably should make this decision just because I don't want to pay bills no more. Listen, paying bills is a part of being an adult. And a lot of times, and especially I know as a single woman because I've been there, a lot of times you ready for somebody to come and relieve you. And to this day, I am grateful that I have a husband to take care of me, to relieve me of all the things I had to do for myself. No doubt. However, is it worth that trouble? That's the question you gotta ask yourself. What are you exchanging? So I guarantee you, if you talk to her now, she will pay back pay in the bills on that rent or whatever he was doing for the house, just to get her time back. That's priceless. Just to get her mind back, that is priceless. Just to get her confidence back, that's been ripped to shreds. So again, check your intention. One of the other things I realized, and that was a key takeaway with this scenario, is isolation. Isolation is the tactic of the enemy. The enemy uses isolation to ruin us. It ruins us as individuals, but let me talk particularly about what isolation does to women. First of all, women, we love to be that girl, right? One of the things she mentioned was she just wanted it to be her turn, which is we all can identify. She was like, I really just thought that it was my turn. That was part of the delusion, right? That, yeah, no man probably won't just come in and upgrade your life like this. Yeah, he's probably lying. Yeah, the math ain't mathing, but maybe, just maybe, it's just my turn. That was a part of the delusion, right? But because of that, right, we want to have that story. We want to have that love story. We want to say, baby, I met this man and he done came and changed my life. That's mostly all women dream when it comes to especially dating and finding your husband, right? But as friends, as family, please recognize that women only go MIA when they're being isolated. Women only go MIA when they're being abused. Women only go MIA when they are depressed. Women only go MIA when they are embarrassed. Listen, pay attention to your friends. Pay attention to your daughters. Pay attention to your sisters. If one of your friends, sisters, or women go MIA, they got something going on. And she isolated herself when it came to her family. When it came to her friends, she said she wasn't telling nobody almost about nothing about him. And mind you, a lot of this was during the pandemic, so she wasn't seeing people. And it made more room, right, for the isolation and for her to be able to cover up his lies and his story and the way that she was living, and so on and so forth. But a key thing is, don't let the enemy isolate you. If you are embarrassed about it, you probably need to tell somebody. I know it's hard to tell somebody something you're embarrassed about, but guess what? The truth will set you free. If you could just find one person to open up to and tell the thing that you're embarrassed about, tell the thing you shame about, tell the thing you kind of questioning in the back of your head about, that will open up that door, and that will allow wisdom to come in, that will allow sense to come in, that will allow console to come in, that will allow a different perspective to come in, and you won't have to go through that thing alone. A lot of the reason why not only she went through what she went through, but why she went through it to the extent and the period of time she went through it, was because of isolation. Now, nobody isolated her, she isolated herself. There was only one occasion where she said like he was kind of part of the isolation, and that's when she had a miscarriage, and he told the family, don't call her, she just need to rest, get some rest or whatever. Don't let the enemy isolate you. And if it's something you're embarrassed about, something that's not sitting right with you, and you kind of feeling that in your, oh, I'm not gonna tell nobody, then you probably should tell somebody. You probably should, because those are usually indications that if you think it ain't right, it's probably not right. So just be mindful, and again, keep your eyes on your friends, your family, because women only isolate themselves for bad reasons. I don't know no woman that's living her best life, living a dream, and she locked up in the corner, ain't telling nobody about it. That's not in our nature. Women want to share joy. Women want to share love, especially love. If a woman is being loved properly, if a woman is flourishing in her love life, baby, I'm coming out. I want the world to know. Listen, we want to tell everybody. We want to tell everybody about it. So just keep an eye on that. And keep an eye on that with yourself. If you hiding it, it's a reason. And I know, because I done had a couple boos that I done hid. I didn't want nobody to know. Why? It wasn't for nobody to know I was creeping. You hear me? So think about that. Don't let the enemy isolate you. It ain't right. It ain't right. The number one thing I realized, and that was desperation. There was a lot of desperation, and she admitted it. She admitted that there was some desperation going on there, and she wanted a man, and she wanted to be married, and she wanted to believe that it was her turn, and that this was it, and so on and so forth. So listen, there are no good outcomes of desperation. There's none. That's why I had the conversation before. That's why we did the video, desire or desperation, because desperation will only lead you down a dark path, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. Desperation will tear you apart. And so desperation will make you settle, right? And that's what she did. She settled. Now, a lot of people was like, oh, you should have knew he didn't want you because she like a heavy set woman, but I thought she's a pretty woman. And I don't think things like that matter when it comes to matter of the heart. To each his own. But I don't think you could physically judge somebody to say what they deserve and what they don't deserve. It's a no for me. Desperation will make you exalt minor things over major things. So it's like having that at least mentality. And I believe we talked about this before, right? So it's like all of the things this man was doing, it was like at least he paid the bills. At least he paid the bills is the minor. But the major thing is, this man is a pathological liar. This man is getting up every day pretending a whole life. Pretending to be a VP of a company, pretending to have access to all of this money, pretending to be able to buy me a car, and pretending this and pretending that. Like, that is major issues. And instead of acknowledging those major issues and red flags, you exalt minor things like, oh, he's paying the rent. Oh, you know, he, whatever. It was so many lies. Honestly, the only benefit or the only consistent thing I saw is the fact that he actually paid the bills. It wasn't like stuff was getting cut off or, you know, he was lying about paying the bills. So that was the only thing I heard that was legit. So everything else was fake. He lied about his family. He lied about his friends. I mean, lie, 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 lie. His name should have been Lionel. His name should have been Lion King. Lord, help him. Desperation will make you make excuses for people. It'll make you make excuses for him because she had the opportunity to acknowledge his lies and whatever, but she made excuses for him over and over again to herself. He lied to her and she lied to herself, right? Desperation will make you lie to yourself because at some point you begin to try to make sense of it instead of just realizing that, you know what, the math ain't mathing. And if I keep pretending, this only gonna end up worse. And so that's what happened. She was so desperate that she went ahead and just lied to herself to make herself feel better. Especially when she decided to marry him. It was no reason she should have married him. But hey, it happens. Desperation make you create false realities. So she held on to the idea of the big house, of the luxury car, of this grand lifestyle. That was enough to keep her creating these false realities when his words were saying one thing and there was no action behind it. No action. He treated her like people treat their children. Like when you tell your child that you're going to do something for them or you're going to bring them somewhere. Oh, next weekend we're going to go to Chuck E. Cheese. And then the child keeps saying, when we going to go to Chuck E. Cheese? When we going to go to Chuck E. Cheese? And then you take them to 5 and below, right? And you like, oh, go ahead and walk around, get this, get that. And next week we're going to go to Chuck E. Cheese, right? And so it's this build up. Chuck E. Cheese is the big thing we get to do. But in the meantime, I'm going to bring you the Dollar General. I'm gonna do these little things to keep you holding on to that dream of Chuck E. Cheese. But you can't do that to children because guess what? They ain't gonna get over it. And not just that, it just crushes their hopes. It crushes their trust. It crushes, your relationship with them because they can't count on you. They don't believe you. And even at some point, a child will be like, you lied to me. At some point, a child gonna be like, you keep telling me you take me to Chuck E. Cheese and you ain't take me to Chuck E. Cheese yet. And here you got this big tail of adult that is not putting two and two together that, yeah, you saying all this stuff. I'm going and test driving all these cars, but we ain't buying a car yet. Yeah, we keep going to see these houses, but we ain't got a house yet. So it's like you just creating false realities. And so I say all that to say that everything goes back to checking your own heart, checking your own intentions, checking your own why. Why are you accepting this? What are you getting out of it? Because again, let's be real with ourselves. Was having a man worth that type of mental trauma? Was having a man pay your rent for however long worth that mental trauma? Like, was it worth it? Is it worth it? If you're in a situation that is just, I mean, I was I was dreaded for her. I only got a few videos in and I was like, okay. I told my husband, I was like, at this point, I I feel I was like, at this point, I feel like either she making this up or she the crazy one. Because how? How do you put yourself through this? He wasn't holding her hostage. She never said at some point that she was gonna leave him, and he was like, "If you leave, I'm gonna kill myself. I'm gonna kill you." Like, it was nothing where he was physically or, you know, dominating her or holding her hostage. Like, he just was living a lie, and she was part of it. And it was a lot. It was a lot, but we got to do better. We got to do better. Do men need to do better? Yes, because it's no it's no way this man is out here doing the crazy stuff that he doing, just walking around lying like that. He is a liar. Liar. You hear me? He was a liar. So, but who giving him the time of day? It's us. Women is giving this man time. This man was married 3 times. She was his third wife. Like, come on, ladies. We gotta mentally be better. We gotta build ourselves up mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, so that you don't fall for stuff like this. If she was in a better mental space, she wouldn't have fell for them lies. If she was physically, if she was at her body goals and, on this journey of self love and she wouldn't have fell for that. If she was financially what she wanted to be, at least financially stable, where she didn't need the relief of not having to pay her bills, she wouldn't have fell for that. If she was emotionally where she needed to be, she wouldn't have fell for that. So I say all that to say, this is the reason I have this page. It's so that we as women, and of course men too, but we can build ourselves up. The whole idea of this page is to become better individuals so that every relationship that we attach to along the road, whether it's with family, with friends, with dating, becoming married, in our friendships with our girlfriends, and our friendships with our partners, and our work relationships, when we become who we need to be, we can easily become better at these relationships. And most of all, when we get our relationship right with God, when we figure out what God has us here for, who He has created us to be, what is our purpose, what God is calling us to in this life, we will not be in the pits of hell in our relationships. Because when we know God, when we know ourselves, we not settling. We not desperate. We not just crawling and crying and needing people, their lies, their foolishness, their deception. Like, life is hard enough. Life gonna life regardless. There's many things that we have to deal with that's out of our control. But when it comes to relationship, you choose these people. You choose who you become friends with. You choose who you date. You choose who you marry. So if you get you straight, if you work on you, if you learn of God who created you and who He created you to be, you will save yourself so much time in the struggle of relationships. So that's it, and that's all. See you next time. Love ya.